Hello, welcome back again. I'm Tanya from Tanya's Witchy Kitchen, and how are you doing today? Welcome to another episode of Herbal Spotlight, and this one is a doozy. So, interesting enough, I told you about my child who had ringworm when he was little, right? He must have a penchant for worms. He's not the fisherman, but he came down with a case of tapeworm, roundworm, couple worms. I'm not going to go into details of it. But anyway, took him to my voodoo doctor, and he said, I was actually shocked that he didn't get like a wormwood or ivermectin or fenbenzynol, actually, but they're more on the herbal side, and you know, those two last ones are more synthetic, although they do work, but for different things. But yeah, so he ended up taking diatomaceous earth and a couple tinctures, and had to stay away from beef and pork, most meats, red meat, white meat. Even though most people say red meat, they don't think of pork, but pork actually falls into that category. And so, and then of course some other things, because he wasn't exactly sure. All the worms, you know, some worms feed off corn, sugar, grains, which is corn, you know, stuff like that. So he was on a regimen for about 6 weeks, and he is done with that. But we actually teased him for a little bit there, because the kid would not stop eating. He's just like, I'm hungry, you know, I'm starving. And when he started his regimen, of course, he was like, just like, ugh, you know, but of course those worms are in there like, feed me, you're killing me, you know, which is the point. But yeah, so today, kind of a gross topic. Today we are actually really talking about wormwood itself, which is the natural ivermectin for us, technically. And it is something my voodoo doctor does use instead of ivermectin as wormwood tinctures. And I've seen it. We've had it in our yard for years. And like I'm telling you, those town people who are told to spray their yard and have this beautiful green lawn, it's a gimmick. It's totally a gimmick. If you knew the plants that grew and were so beneficial to you, it's crazy. But the first time I saw this plant, you know, it had gotten bushy because we hadn't mowed, and I had asked my husband, and he's like, that's just stinkweed. And I'm like, stinkweed? And he goes, yeah, it stinks, okay? I'm going to tell you something from my personal opinion. When I brush my hands across it and smell it, it is not stinky. It is this fresh kind of eucalyptus type. It's not a, you know, it's not, but it reminds me of a eucalyptus menthol type of smell. Like, I have gotten so used to it, just whoosh, washing my hands when I walk by and smelling it, that I actually like it. Yeah, so that's what we're doing today. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to take you straight to the video. 3 things. Dream big. Be true to you. You are worth it. Let's talk about wormwood.
And onto our wormwood. This is Artemisia absinthium. It is part of the daisy family, and the Artemisia genus is represented by about 200 to 400 species, depending on what book you read. And many are really good digestive bitters. That is what they are used for. Absinthe is the botanical spirit made from wormwood, anise, and fennel. Some people do add a few extra spices to give it their own little kick. And interesting enough, it is the key ingredient in the herbal drug artemisinin, which is the most powerful anti-malarial on the market nowadays. It grows 1 to 3 feet tall. I have seen it 4 feet tall in one of our fields. So maybe it's just North Dakota. But it is gray-green with whitish stems covered with fine hairs and yellowish-green leaves that are hairy yet silky. Don't confuse wormwood with its close cousin mugwort, which I know it's in there. Common names are mugwort, but that is actually a different plant. Mugwort stays green. It looks very similar. It stays very green, but it doesn't have that silvery whitish look to it. You can use it fresh or dried. There is a reason to use it specifically dried. We use the stems, the leaves, and the flowers. Really quick, the essential oil has 28 components that represent 93.3% of the plant. The two main components are pinene, which is 23.8%, and thujone, which is 18.6%, and that's the one that people are most concerned about. However, if the plant is dried, there is very, very little of the thujone left in the plant. It contains very little, which is why you want to use it dried. The active components are acetylenes, ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C, carotenoids, flavonoids like quercetin. There's lignans, phenolic acids, tannins, the thujone, and isothujone. If you want to just drink the tea, it really helps aid in digestion. It brings down arthritis pain, helps with gallbladder disease and skin infections that are viral, bacterial, or parasitic. Some other benefits: it combats malaria. It helps fight cancer cells, breast cancer cells specifically. It helps with tumor cell death. And because of these anti-tumor benefits, it inhibits abnormal cell growth for overall wellness. I believe the biggest thing people know about is the parasite killer. It kills intestinal worms, pinworms, roundworms, tapeworms. Pinworms are the most common worm infections in the U.S. because the eggs spread directly person to person. Ugh, gross. People have actually lost weight due to deworming. We deworm farm animals, cows and horses, and goats use pine trees. There's cat dewormer. Don't use ivermectin. But if you want to try a deworming farm animals herbally, you can combine wormwood, mugwort, chicory, and common tansy. They're all anti-parasitic. Wormwood actually helps treat Crohn's disease. It's antimicrobial and antifungal, so it kills bacteria plus fungi, candida. It treats SIBO, which is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. It also supports lipid metabolism for balanced energy and vitality, enhances metabolism, and promotes healthy blood lipid levels. That's cool. Anti-inflammatory and antioxidant, fights the free radicals, and reduces oxidative stress. I love anything that combats oxidative stress. Like I said, it's best dried. You can make an infusion or a tea, 1 teaspoon to 1 cup of water, steep 5 to 15 minutes, unsweetened for the best effect because it is a bitter. It's considered a bitter herb. The longer it steeps, the more bitter it will get. So you could add a little peppermint or anise to combat that. Okay. As an energy tonic used occasionally. For worms, you might want to use a powdered form. In small doses is what you want to be taking this, no longer than 4 weeks at a time. You'll know when you don't need it anymore because it becomes repugnantly bitter, where you just want to gag on it and you just can't stand it anymore. That's the best. Just stop taking it. If you overtake it, it can cause nausea, vomiting, restlessness, insomnia, vertigo, tremors, or seizures. So, use with common sense. The FDA says wormwood is unsafe for internal use due to the toxicity of the thujone oil. Yeah, well, I'm not even going to get into what the FDA says. Please do not take if you are pregnant or breastfeeding. If you have an allergy to ragweed, it can cause a reaction. If you have porphyria, which is a disorder resulting from the buildup of certain chemicals related to red blood cell proteins, it could make it worse. If you have epilepsy and seizures, please talk to a doctor first. Kidney disorders, it is not recommended to use. Google says this is sea wormwood, which it doesn't even seem to be in North America, but I'm not sure what this is. I just put it in here for fun. Okay, so this is one type of wormwood, and this is my other type, my absinthe wormwood. And we are going to make a tincture today. And one thing with dried wormwood is, like I noted, a mask is advised to wear when working with dried wormwood. Just a little cautionary advice for you right there. So we're going to do this the old-fashioned way. If you really want to do it like with the figuring and all that stuff, it's a 1:5 ratio with, I think it's 50-50 alcohol, water. So since I forgot to measure this and the first time around, I always like to measure how much I have in there, even if I just fill up the jar with the alcohol and the water. Okay, so 250 milliliters is what I would need for this. Doing it the ratio way, which is fine. It's going to come close because my jar is that full. But I put both types of wormwood in there. And if I could have found the place where I had taken the picture of the sea wormwood, which I think is right beside the house actually, I probably would have done some more research on that plant itself. And then if that was really a wormwood, I would have thrown that in there too. So you do the, water, the alcohol, mix it up really well. Make sure it's to the top. Make sure you plastic lid because it's alcohol. Label it really well. Shake it daily for a week. Check it because you might have to add some water or alcohol to it. And there's your tincture. There's your tincture. And that is our herbal spotlight on wormwood. I hope you had a good time. Thank you for dropping by, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.